Episode of Ask an Expert. I am thrilled to be joined here by Dickie Osborne, and tonight we're talking all things arena footing. And Dickie is a total expert on this topic. I'm so excited to dive in and get to all the questions that we have because I'm afraid I think we might have too many questions to cover in this hour. Before we do that, Dickie, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm doing great. I am almost through a base layer on a arena in Alabama, so everything's going good. Hope to get home for Christmas and then come back after and finish it up. So everything's great here.
Amazing. Where is home?
Home is Virginia, outside of Bristol, Virginia.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, great horse country.
Oh yeah.
Um, that is awesome. Okay. So, can you start us off by telling us a bit about your background and kind of how you got into this, how you became an expert in arena footing, and just kind of how did you get to where we are today?
Sure. So I've been into horses all my life. Started when I was probably 8 or 9 years old with a pony that my uncle gave me, and kind of always kept a horse around, except for some time that I was gone to the army. So I got out of the army, got back into horses, and built my first arena when I was 23 years old, and it was really bad. I didn't know what I was doing. We kept equipment around all my life. My dad ran heavy equipment on in the strip mines, so I was familiar with it. I knew how to use the equipment and everything, but I didn't know anything about arenas. We just wanted one, and we put some stone dust down and fenced it. And for what we were doing at the time, it was so much better than anything we had had.
That is, yeah, I can imagine. That is just a big undertaking to start that and to be like, I'm gonna try this, and here you are today.
Yeah.
Now a total expert on the subject matter.
Yeah, and that kind of took a that took a while. So I've done a lot of things in my life, and always had equipment around. Always had farms, and we had cattle and horses. So it was kind of a natural thing for me. But I also ran a machine shop for a lot of years. So we would help folks on the side. I built several for neighbors and friends and things like that, and I always had an interest in it. Fast forward about 10 years, I met a lady who actually was an engineer who wanted an arena built for a training facility she had. And she contacted me. We had been doing for a long time excavation work full time. So we had started another business. I gave one business to my son. And then we started the excavation business years before she ever called. And she asked me about an arena. And I said, well, I've built arenas, but probably don't want the one I built. So she coached me through it. She was really smart. She had done her research. We found a local sand that worked for her. Um, and then a few years after, I met Michael Depew, who's a footing expert. So Michael's all about putting those together. I'm the construction part of it, the blending, the setting the footing up. I do all of that, and he actually does the blends. So he takes sand A, B, and C, puts those together with or without fiber, and makes a blend out of those.
Perfect. Well, that is the perfect segue into talking about what as actually goes into creating an arena and the footing and the kind of the thought process sees behind that. Can you start us off with talking about for riders who don't think much about footing day to day, kind of why should adult amateurs care about what their horse is working on?
So I've seen a whole lot of bad footing in my life. Almost every ring that we go to, if we've not built it, it really is, and people are left with just buying something from a local quarry and putting it down in a square space or a rectangular space, and they don't know. So we developed a course. It's called the Precision Academy, but it's an online course people can go and take that really spells out what's needed, why it's needed, how to do it, how to oversee your project, how to manage your contractor, all of those things. But to get back to your question, it's important because horses are expensive and vet bills are expensive. And it's very easy on bad ground or bad footing in the English world to to have a lot of vet bills due to suspensory issues. There's all kinds of things that can happen if you're working in footing that's too deep or unstable and all those things. So I would just say for us, anyway, it's the health of the horse.
Yeah, I mean, it seems so obvious. And as we talk about bad footing versus good footing, can you kind of define what that means to you?
So it's different for every discipline, good and bad. But what we see a lot in the English world, and that's mostly what we're talking about here, what we see mostly there is unstable sands. So somebody will go out and buy a single sand and put that down on a stone dust base or clay base, whatever they've done there. Um, and single sands, I've built hundreds now of arenas. I've not used a single sand since I met Michael Depew. You cannot find a single sand with the correct gradation to have stability. So you end up with all these stability issues. The horse is going into the base, they're in up over the hairline, into the footing. And so that's the biggest thing we see. And then the next biggest thing we see is the lack of skill in building them. So a lot of people want to dig an arena in. They want to take the soil out and put it down in that footprint, and that's not a good idea at all. There's all kinds of things that can happen. And two, just to be frank and honest, we have a lot of people out there that claim to be arena builders and claim to be contractors, and they're just not. People will hire them because they're local or whatever, and then they get into trouble and they won't admit fault. So they just kind of smuck it through to the end, and then you've got a disaster on your hands that you got to tear it all out and fix it.
Yeah, that's an expensive mistake.
Very expensive endeavor.
Okay, so Dickie, let's talk about the right way to do it.
Yep.
Start with the moment you take on a project. Like what are the steps that go into it, and what should it look like if you're doing everything by the book?
Okay, so I'll start with this. Site selection is very important, and our course covers that. How to select your site. What are you looking for? Am I going to have one bank? Am I going to have two? Am I going to have three? Can I get it on top of a knoll where I have no banks? That's an ideal situation.
But sorry to interrupt you.
That's
Can
okay.
you what do you mean by banks?
So to level the surface, you usually have to dig in somewhere. Because if you take a 200-foot space and it's got 2 foot of fall, then you have to take material out of one end and put it on the other end to get that surface on grade. Now, in an outdoor arena, that grade is 1% slope. But on an indoor arena, it can be perfectly level. But if we do outdoors that way, they'll hold water. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. The banks around the outside. How many are you going to have? How much drop do you have over the distance? And what does that look like when you start excavating that? So we try not to do projects where there's a bunch of big ugly banks. We want those grass, we want those cut back where you can mow them. We put drainage swales around the outside. But anyway, so all of that is site selection. It's really looking at your project, the proximity to the barn, the proximity to water, because you're going to need a lot of water, all of those things. And then once the site selection is done, our system, it's called the Precision Arena system, and we developed it, Michael and I, because of all the problems we've seen over the years. So one of those, one of the main parts of the system is a raised subbase. So whatever site soil you have, that has to be stable, and then that has to be raised above the surrounding grade.
Interesting. So how are you doing that?
Okay, so there's two ways to do that. You can excavate a footprint larger than the arena and use the extra material to bring it up, or you can simply, once you get your vegetation removed and you start excavating, then you can cut swales around the outside, which effectively raises it because
Oh, got it.
you don't have any run on water. So there's two ways to do that, and we find a combination of both really works well. So you can excavate a slightly smaller footprint. You can use that extra for your swales. And then once you cut those down, and they're slight swales, I'm not talking about big ditches. I'm talking about nice grassed swales that you can mow that you can't even see almost once they're in. So that's the platform that everything else is built on. If you don't get that correct, you're really just waterlogged from the beginning.
Yep. So that's your, like, basically point one is making sure that you have
Raise.
extra soil in the place that you're going to put the ring. And that's what you
Yep.
were saying is the opposite of what you see other people doing, which is they're taking it away.
That they're taking it away and digging it in, and they're putting their sand and all of their base and everything down in the ground so that their sand ends up surface level. Now that'll work in Florida in sandy soil where it drains well.
Mhm.
That won't work in the clays that we have in the other regions of the United States. So that's why Florida has a lot of decent rings, because they're so easy to build there. And that's why a lot of other states really struggle, especially when you get into red clay country like Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, parts of Virginia, and really all the way up the East Coast. There's a lot of red clay. So those are really hard to drain because clay doesn't drain well. So we developed this system to drain those, and it really is the best system in the world. And I'm not just saying that because we developed it. I'm saying that because we saw all the problems and went through all the struggles to come up with this system. So a raised sub base is huge.
Okay, I'm with you. So we've got the raised sub base. We're there.
Yep.
What's next, and how do you determine which stands you're bringing in? Are you bringing in any fibers? What's the kind of proportions of each material that you're using?
Okay, so let's just go step by step through the system. So once we get the sub base raised, then we have to address the drainage. So our swales that we talked about have to be cut. We have to relieve every side of that arena from any uphill slope. So anything where it meets an uphill slope has to be relieved with a swale. Now, there's times when a French drain comes into play. If I'm building an arena real close to a building, I don't have room to cut a swale, we can put a French drain in, but French drains notoriously plug. And I don't want my customers to be digging that out 5 years from now or 10 years from now, trying to clean it out. So we address all of the drainage next, and that does two things. One is it keeps our sub base, which is site soil, dry, and it's paramount that that stays dry until you get the base material on it. And the base material would be stone in the case of an English ring. Now, everybody don't do it, but we do a two-layer stone system. Most people put down stone dust or screenings, or 1/4 inch minus is what they call it. We build a two-layer base system. So we do 4 inches of road base, which is a larger rock. We cap that with 2 inches of screenings, or 1/4 inch minus. That makes a superior base because road base is so durable, and it's not easily pushed into. If you did have a failure with the sub base, the road base will hold it up. It won't get pushed down. Screenings are easy to push down into clay. So that's kind of the first three steps. You do the sub base, you do the drainage, and then you build your base. And then once your base is built, you do fencing, because your fence posts get drilled through the base. So, and your fencing, the bottom board is called the kickboard, that retains your footing. So you don't want to bring footing in until that kickboard is in. Those kickboards are drilled with 1.25 inch holes so that they drain out when stormwater comes. And then there's also at the bottom of that kickboard, there's a filter fabric, a geotextile fabric that we put around the edge, just about 12 inches into the ring. And that allows no washouts. So you won't have sand washing out from under the kickboard. You won't have your base eroding away and all those things. And then your kickboard is backed up with a 57 stone, which is a clean stone, a drainage stone. So as the water comes out, it hits the drainage stone and it kind of dissipates out, and it doesn't erode away at your base or sub base.
Wow. This is I mean, we're not even there yet, and it is incredible what goes into this.
I could talk to you about this for the next, we could do 10 episodes, easy peasy.
I have not had enough appreciation for what properly goes into a properly built ring before this.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm fully with you. We've laid the base and we've fenced the arena.
Yep.
What do you do next?
So next we would have already tested our sands. So when we work in a new area, we will go to quarries and get samples of sands. Michael tests those and puts together a mixture. Usually it's 2 or 3 sands mixed together. And then we will start laying those sands and laser grading those with machine control. Everything we do is laser graded machine control. And what that is you set up a laser that rotates a beam. There's 2 receivers on the equipment that sense the laser and they automatically adjust the grade. So
Wow.
we're not out there trying to find grade and checking and measuring. Once we get that laser set up and get our points set where we want each layer to end up, then we just go with it. And that laser matches that grader matches that laser to a T.
Wow. Okay, and when Michael is determining which sands to be using and at what proportions he's using of each,
Mm-hmm.
what is he looking for? Like what
So,
is the optimal?
So it's different for every discipline, and that's where it gets tricky. And that's why we test every arena we do. And we have hundreds of customers that only do testing. So they'll send Michael samples, they've already got an arena or their footing's bad or whatever. And so we have developed, Michael and I, over 35 years, we have developed an internal scale. Now the scale doesn't mean anything to anybody else, but our dressage footings will be around a 4 on our scale. A Grand Prix jumping ring will be probably 6.5 on our scale. That's a firmness scale.
Mhm.
So the more demanding the arena, the more demands it has on it, the then the firmer it needs to be. Now this doesn't apply to Western footing, so you have to. That's a whole nother thing. But
Okay.
as far as English footing goes, so and we even do footings for carts and all kinds of neat things that people do, mounted shooting, all that. But yeah, it's funny. But anyway, so we've developed that scale and we've tweaked that scale. We constantly for a lot of years, okay, this footing could be a little firmer for this discipline. This footing could offer a little more cushion for this older horse. So we take all those things into account when we build an arena for someone. And so that's what he's looking for. He's looking for the right gradation of sands, which is the particle size distribution, to meet that particular discipline and offer the horse as much comfort as it possibly can and the footing still hold up.
Got it.
And that's the goal.
And are you mostly just using combinations of sand or are you introducing fibers at any point?
We do fiber all of the time. I do a lot of arenas with fiber. Here's the problem, and this is a can of worms. This would be a whole nother episode. The problem with this is the fiber industry has pushed fiber in a direction that it is no longer good. So these over fibered rings are matched with terrible gradations of sand. So the sand that they use for these fiber rings at these facilities is a fine uniform sand. It's very uniform. So what that means is it has no fines in it, it has no shear. If you put the sand down alone, your horse would be into the base. They won't hold up without the fiber.
Is that
They're,
what shear mean? Can you define shear for me?
so shear is when a really good. We just got done with the NFR. So a really good thing about shear is, did you watch the horses as they go into the barrel and how the footing shifts and gives way? So that's shear and shear resistance. And what we want to build into a good footing is the right amount of shear resistance. So if we have no shear, like these modern fiber systems, then we have big vet bills. We have body sore horses. We have all kinds of things that are coming out in the industry. Vets are talking about it like crazy. These over fibered rings with fine uniform sand are just killing people's horses.
No shear, what does that look like? Does that mean that it's like there's
Watch
not
a
enough like
modern watch a modern Olympics or a modern show jumping. Watch the footing. Do you remember years ago how we had the little people with rakes
yeah.
and they would as soon as the horses jump they'd run out and rake? We don't have that anymore. Why? Because the footing's not displaced. Why is the footing not displaced? Because it has no shear.
Okay.
Now there's another aspect, and I'll touch on this, but we may want to do something on it at some point because it's really good.
Happy to, yeah.
All the fibers that they're putting into these rings cause rebound. It's like a spring, okay? But Michael is starting to study and already has done a white paper on it. There's a thing called untimely rebound. So you and I are jumping on a trampoline, okay? And you come down about the time I jump. Have you felt that?
Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
That's an untimed rebound. When you load these systems up with so much fiber, the rebound actually starts before the end of the stroke of the hoof. So the hoof's going in, it's compressing the fiber, but the fiber is kicking back because the fiber will only compress so much. And with another problem to these modern systems is the water. So they hold an immense amount of water. So these fine uniform sand, let's look at it in a glass jar full of marbles. Okay, that's uniformity, all the same size marbles. We fill that up with water, it's going to hold a lot of water. If we start introducing other size marbles, smaller marbles, steel balls, BBs, and go on down, then it's going to hold less and less water. Water is not compactable. You can't compact water. You can put it in a cylinder and it won't compact at all. It's not like soil or sand. So when you load them up with all this untimed rebound or poorly timed rebound and a ton of water that won't compact, the surface becomes overly hard. It doesn't feel hard to walk on it. But when you ride a horse on a 1,500-pound animal and they're going at it, you know, especially over a jump or coming off of a jump, it just creates havoc on them. And like I said, the veterinarians are coming out of the woodwork over it. Even the farriers are seeing it. A lot of problems with horses on these overly fibered systems. Fiber is a great tool at about 1%. Most of these fiber companies want you to buy 3, 4, 5. We've seen 40% fiber in a
Wow.
ring. They couldn't even groom it. It had so much fiber in it. And they kept selling them fiber because the sand was unstable. So that's kind of the whole spiel on fiber. I love fiber when it's used in the right way, in the right proportion, for the right purpose.
And when you are utilizing fiber, what is the purpose of it, and if you're using it correctly, and kind of how does that look?
So, in order to get horses into the footing, we have to do it one of two ways. We have to either have shear, which is what we talked about earlier, or we have to have a little bit of resiliency. Both of those are good in English disciplines. The resiliency is the softness or the cushion that fiber provides that other things that we cannot get out of minerals. Can't get that out of any kind of sand. That it really has very little cushion. You can groom it up, but the first time a horse steps on it, it's pretty compact.
Mhm.
And especially with water in it, if we're trying to keep dust down, then so fiber comes into play, and for dressage, for jumping, fiber in a footing at the right rate is a great thing, but everyone is overdoing it.
So are you able to hear me? Yeah. Okay.
I
I'm
can hear you, I
surprised.
can't see you.
Can you see me now?
Nope, I can hear
No.
you, but I can't see you.
Huh. Okay. I can see me. Okay. Well, as long as you can hear me.
Okay.
um, I'm surprised at that you only need 1% fiber if that is what's providing kind of like the cushion.
Yeah, 1% fiber is really fluffy, extremely fluffy. And so it doesn't take a lot. You when you get a footing system that's overly fibered, it just causes all kinds of issues. It causes grooming issues. It's really hard on horses when you put a lot of water in it. It's harder to water because that fiber soaks up water. So the more fiber you put in, the more water requirement you're going to have. And And so, yeah, 1% is what we found that really works. It's enough resiliency without having those concussive forces of untimed rebound. It really works well that way.
Got it. Okay.
Now that is
And
also,
yep.
let me just clarify, that's quite a bit of fiber. That's 1% of the total volume of the total weight of sand.
Okay. That makes more
Yeah.
sense. Yeah. It's an important clarification.
Yeah, so
Wonderful. So
5,000 pounds roughly in a 100 by 200 arena.
got it. Okay. It feels like a lot. It's like yeah, these numbers are it is a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've laid your actual footing, which is your sand and your fibers.
Mhm.
Is there any other parts of the process?
So yeah, the footing is a lot more intense than that. So what we have to do when we when we put these footings in, unless you have a big expensive blender, which most people don't have, we have to laser grade these sands out in layers. And so your bulk sand, or the one that holds the majority of the weight in the footing, goes down first, then your next sand, then your third sand if you have it, and then fiber on top. Then all of that gets water, a lot of water. On a 100 by 200, you're probably talking about 7,500 gallons of water
Oh my god.
to get it correct to the correct moisture content to blend. And then we would blend it with a blender. And there's different tools you can use for that, but it's just a machine that's similar to a rototiller, but you just don't want to get into your base. So it has to be a laser controlled machine. But anyway, that's the process. And then once that's done, the footing has to be set up. So most arena builders don't even know how to set up footing. They just wait on it to rain and they wait on the natural elements to do it. And that's a thing, like it will set up on its own given the time, but we set every footing we do up. So what that consists of is you get it to the right moisture content and you put your groomer tines really deep in the footing, like a half inch off the base, and you continuously groom that and compact at the same time. And after about four complete times of that at one groomer setting, then you raise your teeth and you do it again, and you raise your teeth and you do it again. And so, we'll spend a half a day to a day just setting a footing up. But once you get it set up, you have a pad layer at the bottom, which is a more compacted layer. Now, it's not hard. It's not like base hard, but it's a compacted layer of footing. And then on top, you have your cushion, which is what the horses actually ride on. So that's very important to get footing set up correctly.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. The number of steps in this, it's fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so yeah, you mentioned that right now you are working on an arena. Kind of what is the start to finish timeline on a normal arena that you're working on?
So I this is another sticking point for me. Contractors take way too long to build these things. And they do it because of poor timing. So here's what we do. This is how I time an arena. Um, I watch the weather, and I don't open a project up until I have 3 to 4 days, according to what's been done prior to me getting there. The one I'm working on right now, all of the cut and fill was already done by a local company. So the banks were sloped, the arena was already cut to level, so we had to put it on a 1%, but I did that in 4 hours. So what I'm saying is, you don't open these projects up and get the sod off and get everything stirred up until you're ready to get a base on. Once you get the base on, you can finish it almost no matter what. Like, I've finished them in snow, I've finished them in rain. Once that base is on, you're golden. But while that soil is exposed, if you get that rained on, it can literally, especially this time of year, it can take weeks to dry out. So timing is everything. So for me, I will work on this one week and I'll have it fenced. I'll come back after the holidays and I'll work on it probably 4 more days and I'll be finished.
Got it. Okay.
So
It's
10
yeah.
to 12 days is a really good number. If you have all your materials found ahead of time and lined up. See, we've helped people build arenas, and they've had their site soil exposed for months and they've not even tested any sand.
Mhm.
So it's very important to have all of your materials found up front, have your timing down pat, so that way when you pull the trigger, you can get it done.
Absolutely. Okay, Dickie, when we think about, I mean, a lot of times we're riding our horses and taking our horses to places where we aren't familiar with exactly how their arenas were built or what went into that process.
Yep.
As a rider or a competitive rider, kind of what do you recommend? How do you recommend riders assess whether or not the footing they're going to for a day or for a weekend, like kind of how that is going to be for their horse and whether or not it's a place they should be going to and competing every week, or if it's a place they should be going to maybe once a month, kind of how should riders be looking at that?
So I'll tell you a very quick story, and it's a really good story. It's a testament to what people know without knowing a whole lot. So there's a fellow that I know that helps out at the NFR. His brother runs the thing, but his name is Stan, and I met Stan at the NFR, and we got to talking footing. And Stan said, we were talking about fiber systems, and Stan said to me, I don't let my wife show our horses on that footing except for once a month. That, of course, piqued my attention. So my radar went up. And I said, oh, yeah, why is that? And he said, because my vet bills tell me I can't. So now that's your big facilities, that's your try-ons, that's your WEX. All of that footing is built to perform and have 100 horses jump and very minimal maintenance. But it's not made for the horse. Now, all the people that design those footings, the so-called experts, don't have any soil science background. They're either ex-Olympians or they've invented some hoof drop tester or something like that, and they don't understand one, biomechanics of the horse, and two, they don't understand how to get sand stable, so they just load it up with fiber and water, and those systems are overly hard. So I would say, we had a client call us this year. She had been at a WEC for like 4 days, and she said, I'm going to have to come home, my horses can't stand the footing.
Oh no, yeah, and that it's because it's too much fiber and
it,
like
it's
and
it, it's too
it's
much fiber and
uniform
too much
sand.
water, and water doesn't compact, and the systems are too hard, they're too harsh, and they're hurting a lot of horses. But this industry is slow to change, and when they go for something, they go all out.
Yeah,
So when the fiber systems came, it took a little while, but man, everybody went whole hog, and now it's proving that you can do too much with fiber. Um, Good natural sand is really hard to beat for your horse. Now, I'm not talking about for grooming, because you're going to have to groom it more. You're going to have to be on your maintenance a little more, and the facilities don't want to do that because they want to run 100 horses straight and get through the class and get the entry fees. And that's just the truth. And we all need to wake up and really start to look at what footing we're riding on. And then I would say this. So that's one extreme. That's the harsh extreme that you're going to have problems out of, long-term problems for your horse. And then the other extreme is footing that's too deep or loose. That causes a lot of suspensory issues. So if we've been to my wife has reiners, so we've been to reining shows, and especially when we first met, I would look at the footing and I'd say, "There's no way I'd put a reining horse on that." And we were talking about horses in 6 inches deep, and he's got a slide that So you got two very different problems there. One is way too hard and giving untimed rebound, and the other is way too unstable and deep, and that can cause all kinds of things. So I would say look for those things. I'll tell you a rule of thumb for me. When I build a ring, especially for dressage or jumping, I want to see the firmness at a level that my horse is into that footing about an inch and a half. So he should be making an inch and a half divot.
Got
If
it.
he's making a lot less than that, like a quarter inch, or you can barely see a hoof print, that footing is hard. I would not show on that footing day after day for weeks.
Yeah. That's a great rule of thumb.
And then if you can just take your hand and sweep the sand back and see the base, that's the opposite of that. So that's not good either, and you're likely to have suspensory issues from that.
Yeah. These are great things to be looking out for. Especially, I mean, we just want to keep our horses healthy, and this was a big one.
Yeah.
So, Dickie, I have some member questions here, some kind of specific ones that I
Okay.
would love to get your input on. Taylor has a couple. She is asking if you could do a cost breakdown of something like 100 by 200 multi-purpose arena.
Yep.
And she's wondering if you can, like, what she can safely DIY or do it yourself, and what should always be hired out.
Okay, so this is a good one. And this honestly, and I'm not trying to evade the question at all. So, on a 100 by 200, I am about $120,000. I don't care to tell you, and that's a well known thing. I'll tell anybody that. But I do it. I do it. You know, at a level that most people can't. So, I come in. I take the project on to myself. I make sure that it's perfect. I call all the truck. My customers don't have to do anything. They just pick up the phone and call me
Mm-hmm.
and say, "Hey, I want it done." And we schedule a time when it's good for them, and then I take over. And when I'm done, I hand them the keys. I watch a horse go on it. We give them a whole maintenance class, how to water, how to maintain it, and all that. So that's where I'm at now. You could probably build that if you did all DIY, which is really hard to do. You could probably build that for $60,000 or $70,000 because of material costs. Rock has gone crazy. There are places where rock is. Well, I'm getting ready to work on the coast of South Carolina, and stone there is $80 a ton,
Wow.
and they're building a huge arena. So rock is a huge cost. Good sand is a really big cost. So I would say a little over half of that, probably 60% of that 120 is going to be in material by the time you get done. Now, that's not really counting fencing, so you've got an extra cost there. Um, but for DIYing, lots of people fence their own or have a fencing contractor do it. I don't like fencing. I do it for the customers who want it, but it's not my thing. We do a really good job at fencing. Everybody loves our fencing, but we're slow. It takes us 3 days to fence an arena. Most people can do it in a day. Most fencers, professional. So now we have a little tighter joints. Our posts are a little straighter, than somebody who comes in and does it in a day. But that's kind of a rule of thumb. So, a lot of people do their own fencing. I would say if I was going to try to DIY one myself, the one thing that I would hire is somebody that's good with a laser grading machine,
That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
because the machine is expensive.
Yeah.
You're talking about a skid steer with that attachments on it now. A good one is probably $250,000.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that's the deal there. You can hire that done in phases, and we coach lots of people to do this through our consulting services. You can actually do that in phases. You can hire a local company to come and get it within a foot of grade. Then you hire, and that's just with a dozer, backhoe, whatever you're using, excavator. And most local contractors can get it within 6 or 8 inches. Okay. Then you hire someone to come in with a laser grader, and you have them laser grade the sub base. And once that sub base is laser graded, you go ahead and have them cut the swales with the laser grading machine. And then you can go ahead, bring your stone in, have them laser grade that, have your sand blend ready, have them laser grade that out. And then mixing gets a little tricky. A lot of guys who just laser grade things for a living don't want to fool with mixing it. So there's several ways we can do that, and we can coach people through that. But each one of those is kind of a long process. So I won't get into that here. But anyway, that's one thing I would hire done.
Yeah. I think that it's super helpful, kind of criteria for her to be thinking about, and feedback. She's
Yeah.
saying she's in Middle Tennessee and they have
Uh-huh.
extremely rocky ground,
Yep.
but she does have existing perimeter fencing. She's
Uh-huh.
wondering, is it worth trying to preserve those fence posts, or should they plan to dig all new holes?
Oh, um, that's a tough one because here's why. I've tried to work around existing fencing before, and it, it's getting easier because more and more people have good grading techniques like laser grading. The problem is if you have existing fencing and you have to bring the level of the if you have to change the slope very much, your fence will look really odd. So let's say we've got a 2 foot cut and fill. We have to take 2 feet out of one end and put it on the other end to get it on grade. If we do that and the fencing is already existing, we're going to be 2 feet up on the fence on one end and we're going to dig down 2 feet on the other end.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So fencing can get in the way of that. And also fencing is very hard to work around when you're like to get up to the fencing. We always extend our sub base and base 3 feet beyond the fencing perimeter. So it gets stone out there, and that's to keep the base or sub base of the arena from eroding away. And that stone gets tapered down into the swales. And then another thing I'll say that I missed out on, which is a huge point, is I see so many arenas that are out of level long ways. You can't have a long ways pitch. They have to be dead level long ways, and then you sheet drain them or crown them sideways. And so that's where a lot of people make a mistake. I fixed so many rings that are 3 and 4 foot out of level long ways. So
Huh.
that's another good point. But anyway, that's what you get into when you try to work with fencing that's already there. I would probably do some measuring for that with a laser and see and check the soil height on one end of the fence and then go to the low end and check it and see how much difference there is, but she'll probably end up replacing the fencing. I do very few projects where I can use the existing fencing.
Yeah. Sounds like it might be more expensive than it's worth to try to maintain, like, to try to retain that existing fencing.
Yeah, it can be.
So she's also wondering what spacing you recommend between turnout fencing and an arena to avoid arena contamination.
I tell people no animals on the slopes around the arena. So if you end up with banks or slopes, no animals on those because they'll tear them up and you'll never keep grass on them and they won't grass in pretty where you can mow them. And then I also think that it's a good thing to, you don't, of course, you don't want animals in your swales because then your swales become a muck. So I think, according to each one, but a 10 foot minimum, I think, because that gives you a little room to work on your swell if you ever need to and get a machine around or whatever. And you're not, and I don't know that you want horses running on any closer than that on the other side of the fence when you're trying to ride anyway. So I
Yeah.
would say a 10 foot minimum according to what kind of horses you have and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Taylor's last question is what's your, and I don't know if this is your area of expertise, but just let me
Yep.
know. She's asking, what's your guide for placing outdoor arena mirrors? Are there any budget friendly tips? And should the sub base extend under the mirrors?
I don't think you need to. Most of the rings I see that are outdoors do not have sub base under the mirrors. They'll actually usually erect 6x6s, put plywood on those, and then attach the mirrors to the marine plywood. So I don't think it's necessarily a thing. I think if you have extra dirt and you want to push it out a little further on one end to put your mirrors up, that's fine. But it's definitely not a necessity because you can put those 6x6s in whatever ground is there, and if you do them tall enough, you can level your mirrors really nicely and everything, and then cut the tops off, and you can't really tell it.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. Dickie, your feedback is so tangible and actionable. It's amazing.
Thank
Very,
you.
very helpful. Okay, we have some questions here from Amy and Tara as well. Amy
Okay.
is saying her property came with a 100 by 200 arena on a
Yep.
slag base with sand directly on top, and slag she said slag burps up after freeze thaw cycles.
Okay. Where's
I
she
c-
located?
she didn't say. Amy, if you
Okay.
are here, let us know.
Okay.
She's saying I can't afford a five-figure renovation. What are the most affordable options? Can I just add more sand and live with it?
You can add more sand and live with it. The only thing is that I will say about that is her footing could become unstable because she doesn't. because she probably, now if she's got a good footing and she's satisfied with it, she might get away with adding some. But a lot of times people only have like 2 to 3 inches, and when they start adding footing, if it's an unstable footing, they'll notice it immediately and say, oh my gosh, it's too deep. And that's the thing, is they think it's too deep, but really it's unstable.
Yeah.
We can
Okay.
build a good footing at 12 inches deep. Nobody does it because it's drastically expensive. But I can literally install footing at any depth I want. I can put 6 foot in if I wanted to. And if it's stable, it's stable. The horse will ride nicely up on top of it. You won't have any problems. We just don't do it because of expense.
I just looked it up and I believe Amy is in Indiana, if that
Okay.
impacts.
Pretty cold up there. And I don't know what she means by a slag base. So I'll bet there's not a lot of stone under it, but some of the colder temperatures in Indiana, I would probably, if I were going to fix it, I would probably do an 8 inch stone base under that. Another thing she could think about, but it's super. I don't even like to say it hardly, but some people do put geotextile fabric under their footing. Now, if a tractor catches that or a horse snail catches that, if you don't have good stable footing, it'll jerk that up, and then you got to tear the whole ring out to change it. So I don't usually include that because of that. Um, I would, if it were me and it were mine, I would build a base. And I know
Yeah.
it's expensive, but you got to give somewhere, you know.
Yeah. Totally. Um, okay, Tara is asking, what are the general differences in building an outdoor arena versus an indoor arena? Not the roof, but the actual arena base and footing.
Yeah. So an outdoor arena has to be constructed much more carefully, because of all the water. It's getting pounded by rain and sun, and it's drying out, and the heat rain cycles. So with an indoor arena, if you have a really good compacted level subgrade site soil, you can get away with 4 or 5 inches of stone dust, and not do a 2 layer base. Now, I prefer a 2 layer base even on indoors because they're much easier to install. The material compacts a lot better. But I will say this, um, for an indoor, just level basically, and then any good, quarter minus screening space is going to serve you well. And then, the footing is the same no matter, indoor or outdoor. Um, but the struggles with an outdoor is you have to have your drainage spot on, and you have to have your grading spot on, and you all that has to work together in a system. And most systems that these contractors are putting in are not really a system. They're not really thinking about it. They're just doing things. So the precision system, if you're building an outdoor, the course is well worth the money. Take the course, call me for a consult. I can walk you through it. But the outdoors are a whole lot more in depth. There's a whole lot more to it, and you have to be really, really careful to get it right.
What's the longevity on a well-built arena? Like, how often are you having to kind of retest it and kind of go back to the base?
It's a lot is according to horse traffic. So that ranges, you know how that is. That ranges
Yeah.
from boarding facilities that have 40 horses on it to someone who just has one or two. And so that's what really matters. So arenas that have a lot of traffic, I find generally get neglected. So, like boarding facilities, you got all these people riding, the footing gets disturbed, and unless you have a maintenance crew there, nobody really wants to get in there with a rake and pull the footing off the rails and re-level everything and get everything back to snuff on a weekly basis or every other week basis. Somebody who's riding at home, they might ride a year or two before they ever have to pull any footing back if they've just got one or two horses. So I build 20-year arenas. I say that they'll go 20 years. I believe with all of my heart that I can build a 20-year ring, and you'll have to do very minimal to it. Now, if you have a boarding facility and I build for you, you're going to have to call me, and I'm going to have to come back and laser grade it.
Mhm.
Probably, according to how many horses are on it, probably on a yearly basis, just to touch things up and keep things like they need to be. Um, People are not good at grooming. They don't watch what they're doing. They just get on the vehicle and drive, and they'll end up getting it bowled out. So there'll be a lot of footing in the corners and a lot of footing down the rails and on the sides. And then they'll have no footing in the middle. And that's what happens to these bigger facilities. So I would say on those, every 6 months or a year, regrade those. And then on your personal ring, if you listen to me when I give you my spiel about how to groom it, you buy a good quality groomer, you might go 5 or 6 years. You might go 10 years before something happens. You're like, oh, I'm holding a little water. I need to call him. So then we'll go back out and touch it up and it's good to go.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Um, okay, Dickie, we've covered a lot. I went into this knowing very little about arena footing, and I feel
Yeah,
like I know a little bit more now, and I really appreciate you for that.
that's awesome.
Um, what are there any other kind of topics related to arena footing or myths or anything like a soapbox that you like to get on that you would like to share with
Sure.
the audience before
Sure.
before
My
we call it a
footing is,
night?
yeah, my footing's too deep. I hear it every day. Your footing is not too deep. It's too unstable. So go out and stand in your yard. You've probably got 4 feet of topsoil in your yard. Most yards have 2 to 4 feet. Um, you don't have any trouble. Your horse can walk on it. It's that deep. So your footing is never too deep. It's just too unstable. That's one. I have a lot of people argue with me that they can drain arenas long ways. You can't do it. It won't work. You'll be stacking stuff up at the end of the ring trying to hold your sand in because your sand is out in the pasture. So that's another one. Um, let's see. Folks who don't want to water. And I don't, I cover all that before I build. But if you don't want to water, an arena is not the answer for you because no good footing will perform without water unless you do a dust free footing at a cost of, a lot. They dust free are a lot, and then they have their own problems. That's a whole nother, soapbox and can of worms. But those things probably are kind of my pet peeves. Go and here's another one. Just go get some stone dust and ride on that. So, people get frustrated with selecting sands and putting a mix together that's good. So they just throw some screenings down. Well, screenings, especially if it's limestone screenings, they're full of carbonates, and carbonates lock footing up and make it really hard and crusty after it rains and the sun comes out. And you just fight that and fight that to try to keep it. So, if you're going to do a ring, invest in some quality sand so that you can ride in pleasure and not be riding on a brick. Um, we have that a lot. Trying to think of things that come into our group. Our Facebook group is now 32,000 almost.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and so we get all kinds of questions there. Let's see. I was trying to think of something else. Kind of having a brain cramp here.
No, you've shared so much. It is a phenomenal amount of information. As people want to learn more, how do they find you? How do they find your course?
So my course is Precision Academy and Precision Arenas Academy, and it's brand new. It's only been out a few months, so you may have to type in Precision Horse Arenas Academy. We're working on the SEO for that, so it is coming up better in searches. But we just launched it like 3 months ago, so it's all brand new. Our Facebook group is Equestrian Footing Design and Planning. We approve almost everybody unless they get on there and try to argue with us or say mean things. And then we have a precision Facebook, a business Facebook, which is Precision Arenas, is our Facebook page. And then I'm on the group as Dickie Osborne. So all you got to do is join the group. You can PM me. We answer all kinds of messages, all times of the day and night. And
Amazing.
we really do try to help people. And then I can get you in touch with Michael if you want. He lives in Michigan. I live in Virginia, even though we're business partners. So I have to get people in touch with him about sending samples and things like that. There is a Precision Equestrian Arenas and Sports Field web page that is getting ready to just be Precision Arenas because we don't do sports fields anymore. But you can go there. It has all the sampling instructions on it. It has lots of information about arenas, pictures of our builds, how we do it, what we've seen in the industry as far as mistakes. And then be sure if you do go to the Facebook group, the Equestrian Footing Group, read through the featured section because that featured section is absolutely loaded with information and it's all free. You don't have to pay a dime for it. We consult. So if anybody needs a consultation on how to fix a ring or what to do or whatever, we do those remotely for $210 an hour, which is a steal because I fix so many problems over the phone.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that's kind of that deal.
Awesome. Well, Dickie, that's an immense amount of information and resources that you're putting out there, and the horse community appreciates you for it. And thank you so much for joining us tonight and sharing your expertise with us. We would love to have you on again and continue to inform the Rad IQ audience about how to better prepare their arenas and be better advocates for their horses. We're all trying to do. So, thank you so much.
You're welcome, and I'd be happy to come on anytime.
Wonderful. Well, everyone, thank you for submitting your questions and for joining us this evening. And we'll catch you next.